drilling down a little bit further, with respect to kind of past data points, this is again our mobile market view survey, and you see from wave 1 to wave 2, and again that's September 2007 to September 2008, clear increase in a lot of the uses around the mobile device, some of those being local. Search for local products or services up 9.8% to almost 16%. Other local categories here, information about restaurants or bars, also on the rise. A little more color there in terms of where it's breaking down in terms of category. Not a lot of surprises here. We see a lot of the mobile searches happening in areas where there's a sense of immediacy and also something tied to location. Restaurants and bars are the leading category here. We see retail stores, banks, ATMs. But also interestingly, I want to call out that autos and homes and apartments also show up on this list. And there are things that are tied to location in terms of where you would go to see or purchase them. There also could be a sense of immediacy in terms of the kind of local shopping use case to compare these things when you're out and about. But also these are items that are kind of longer consideration cycle items, which is interesting that we're seeing those start to happen on mobile devices. We're going to hear from Bill Swislow at Cars.com about what they've done in the auto category. And we'll get further down into this, but this is something to kind of watch on an ongoing basis, the opportunities in these verticals. So far, we've just been talking about mobile device penetration, usage, and consumption trends, but really, where is all this leading? And the question is, how will all of this be monetized? Online we see lots of different ad formats that really mirror advertisers' goals. Are they looking for clicks or phone calls or foot traffic or branding? And I think we're going to see the same thing on the mobile device, and a lot of these formats that advertisers are accustomed to are going to transfer over to the mobile environment. But I think at the same time you're going to see a lot of new forms of engagement lead the way for other ad formats that are going to start to evolve. For example, the cell phone is with you or the mobile device is with you at the point of purchase. I think that has a lot of opportunity to start to open up cost per action type advertising models. It kind of bridges the traditional gap between the online and the offline worlds that's traditionally been a source of a lot of uncertainty in online campaign reporting. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity to start to get users closer to the point of purchase in a measurable way. We're going to hear from Scott Dunlap at Nearby Now later on in the forum about what he's doing about bringing a lot of inventory data for shopping, local shopping at shopping centers, and really leading consumers to exactly where things are based on the information of what's on the shelf right now and how much it costs. And that's really done in a highly measurable way. So we'll get into that in a little while. A few of these other formats I'll call out. Mobile SEM and SEO. As we see the mobile web become more and more like the online web, the opportunity could be to bolt on mobile targeting to existing campaigns. We're going to hear from Lee Jenke at Orange Soda later on. Orange Soda, many of you probably know, is a local search marketing firm, and they're starting to think about how to really extend a lot of these campaigns to the mobile device. Google, likewise, is trying to make it easier for its advertisers to start to advertise on mobile by adding mobile targeting into the existing AdWords workflow. And I think we're going to see a lot more of things like that. SMS, another good example. SMS is currently the largest category of mobile advertising in terms of revenues, given that that's really where most of the engagement is happening today, and I'll get into that in a little bit as well. So again, kind of supporting some of the opportunities with respect to monetization. If you look at mobile engagement, just a few scattered data points here. SMS, according to ComScore, we're seeing 20% ad recall rates and 12% response rates. With respect to display, Verizon reports that on their network, click-through rates are at about 2%. That's compared to overall click-through rates online that are really a fraction of a percent. And then mobile research firm GfK has recently come out with a report for US and UK mobile marketing, showing that mobile ad recall rates at about 33%. The number for iPhone users is higher, not surprisingly, but the response rates among those recalled ads were also 33%, again higher for iPhone users. But then interestingly, those who went and made a purchase or a store visit after seeing a mobile ad was 14%, again higher for iPhone users. So these are some pretty strong metrics supportive of the mobile engagement that will start to open up opportunities for lots of mobile marketers. Now on to our forecast. This is the top line of our most recent mobile U.S. mobile marketing forecast, showing that we have 81% compound annual growth rate from 2008 to 2013, going from 160 million to 3.1 billion. And a lot of people look at this chart and their immediate reaction is, why do you have such a steep growth curve in kind of this period of economic uncertainty? And the answer to that really is, first of all, it's growing from a small base. Second, if you look at some of the other local media categories that we cover, the scales are so much larger when you look at newspapers and magazines and radio and television and yellow pages. And we're going to see a lot of share shifts over to mobile. And as that happens, it's going to be a matter of looking at the scale in those categories versus the dollars flowing into this. And it really starts to make sense how we see the steep growth for mobile. Not only that, but the kind of the measurability of mobile plus the engagement metrics that I just talked about are things that really are starting to resonate in the current economic environment. Drilling down a little bit further, so again, this is the kind of overall mobile marketing in the US. That's broken down into SMS, search, and display. So in 2008, again, we see SMS as the leading category. Going back to the data I mentioned earlier, we're seeing less than 20% smartphone penetration in the US. That really means that 80+% of the devices out there, the primary inputs are still talking and texting. So it's really where most of the engagement is happening. We're going to hear from some great companies earlier in the case studies segment that are going to talk about the mobile marketing and SMS-based campaigns they're running today. And again, that's where most of the money is today. Now, looking forward, we're seeing, again, as the proliferation of devices that view full web browsers, we're going to see search really represent the larger opportunity. And that's going to kind of play out in a lot of ways that we're going to get through in the next few sessions. Now, within that search segment, that green portion, we see local search, again, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, as the fastest growing segment. Here's just a quick slide to show you. The top two pie charts here we saw in an earlier slide. Local searches on the mobile device compared to overall searches, or as a percentage of overall searches. But what's new in this slide is the bottom two pies that show the corresponding revenue shares for local as a percentage of overall mobile search. And you see that by 2013, it's going to represent a majority of the revenue coming into mobile search. And again, it's because a lot of those engagement metrics, but also because of the premium that we're going to see being placed on a lot of locally targeted content and advertising, given that it's going to be very actionable and very targeted. So that's it for my kind of intro piece. I hope that kind of gives some background and really sets the stage for a lot of the speakers we're going to hear from next.